Our discussion today is e-mobility. E-mobility most commonly refers to electronic vehicles like cars and trucks, but also includes autonomous vehicles, e-scooters, flying taxis, and they even discuss in the future doing boats and ships. So it appears that the future of transport is truly electric. The adoption of EVs, electronic vehicles, has been occurring, with Tesla probably as the poster child that most people associate with this. But large-scale adoption is still a work in progress. I was looking at something that said the market penetration of electronic vehicles in automotive is just over 2% currently. But the pipeline is full, they say, and lots of models and new developments coming out. And China is certainly the leading market in e-mobility today. Now, the EMS industry has been serving automotive companies for decades and is now supporting the transition to e-mobility as well. So I wanted to speak to an EMS who is doing work in this sector, which brings me to my two guests today. Zollner Electronics is a global EMS company. I think they were ranked number 15 globally in 2019 and are the largest indigenous European EMS company. Zollner has a 2-decade history of providing solutions to the automotive industry and has been engaged with the issue of e-mobility for some years now as well. So joining me today from Zollner to discuss this will be, we'll do this. On the left is Eric Breslein, the general motor with Zollner Electronics, based out of China, although he's in Germany today for us. And then on the right here is Michael Kollmer, who's the director in the automotive business unit at Zollner. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for taking time to speak with me today.
Hello, Eric. It's a pleasure.
Why don't we start, and we'll just go maybe left to right, since that seems to be the appropriate, and you share my name, so you're my favorite already, Eric. But Eric, why don't you briefly describe kind of who you are and your areas of responsibility within Zollner?
Yeah, gladly. Yeah, okay. So I joined Zollner in 2007 as the general manager. But before, I already worked a long time in China for Siemens Communications, so for the mobile phone industry. So I'm looking backwards on almost more than 20 years experience in China. Since then, I live and work there. And from education point of view, I'm a master craftsman. And then by chance over Siemens, I had the luck to come to Beijing to work for the Siemens headquarters there. Yeah, and then maybe you heard about the BenQ Siemens Mobile story. Then BenQ went bankrupt. I looked for a new job, and luckily, yeah, Zollner catched me. And since then, I'm in Taizang. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. And Michael, how about you?
Yeah, I'm 23 years now in Zollner, so also a long time ago, experience in the EMS business. A lot of experience here in Zollner, for sure in the production, but also in the commercial sector, and for sure in the sales. And since 10 years approximately, I'm working with OEMs together in the electric business, so in the electronic mobility.
Okay,
yeah.
Excellent. Well, then you're a good one for my first question then, Michael, because I was going to ask you to maybe begin by defining the field for us and talk about what is the market really for e-mobility in terms of products. I listed vehicles, but that's different than what products.
For sure. So where we see our, sorry,
no,
we see our market for sure is the power electronic business, the inverter itself, and also the battery management systems, for example, where we involved and where we also see our main focus, but also on the charging business. So this is for sure one of the most important things also when we want to enlarge the electromobility. We think the inductive or the conductive charging systems will also enlarge, and so here is also our focus on this market.
Okay. Now, are there restrictions as you're dealing with OEMs, things that maybe they don't want to involve EMS in? Or there are certain things, the real core technologies that maybe it's still so new that they don't necessarily want to be involving outside partners?
So the thing as an EMS supplier is that we do not have our own product. So the ownership of this product is in the hands of our customers. But at the end of the day, our main focus is to support our customer with our knowledge in production, in industrialization, and to get a robust design and to find the right way for the serial production. This helps our customer and this helps us in the serial to have really a good product.
Okay. So did that then require any different equipment or technology platforms to do this type of work? Or I'm thinking about transforming kind of legacy platforms to EV platforms. Is that an issue here, or?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah,
please?
sorry. What I'm asking is doing work for your EV customers, does that require different equipment and technology platforms within Zollner, or do you use what the standard SMT and the type of equipment you have?
So of course there is a lot of standard equipment, but also some special equipment, special technology, because we do not speak only about electronic assembly. So not only the assembly of the PCBA, this is one part of but when we speak about the whole mounting processes of power electronics, this is also very important. For example, lasering. And here we need to get a lot of know-how, and this is where we got some new experience within the last 10 years, let's say.
Okay, very good. Eric, let's pull you in and talk about China market for a bit too. So Asia and specifically China are the leading markets for e-mobility. Can you maybe tell us why this is and why they're seemingly so far ahead of the rest of the world?
Because, you know, in China, the government is running a centralized system, and maybe you know about the 5 years plan. So now we have the 14th 5 years plan in progress since May. And when I look backwards, even in the 12th 5 year plan, that was 10 years ago, the government already decided to go in this direction. Maybe at that time it was not so clear for the market or to the market, but then in the 13th 5 year plan, the government clearly announced a very big plan for e-mobility to roll it out in China. So not only for e-mobility, for the whole infrastructure, transportation infrastructure system. And one part of this infrastructure system for sure was then the e-mobility. So the government sponsored a lot of companies. In the peak time, we had more than 300 Chinese companies focusing on electric mobility. But then China government also clearly say, okay, you guys, you get the money, do something, and only the best, I say, the best 10 will survive. And this was a clear plan from the central government. And this in combination not only with the development of cars, also in development with the loading infrastructure, also combined together. And that makes China so strong now.
So as you're saying, that the e-mobility is only one part of the infrastructure development plan within China. And how is that rolled out? I remember seeing something a year or so ago about the charging station networks around China. Is that developing and evolving?
It's definitely developing, evolving. We have got still right now a lot of charging stations available. So every hotel, in the meantime, even restaurants, they have at least 1, 2, 3 charging stations. If you go to Shanghai Pudong International Airport, you see only one line with 30 e-mobility charging stations. Also, this is the big concept of the government, not only focusing on the e-car manufacturer, also focusing on the infrastructure. And this is a perfect match for this running much, much better than, I have to admit, than in Germany.
Yeah, which means it's even better than what's happening in the United States as well. Just out of curiosity, so who would be some the major Chinese brands in this area? I've heard of a few, but I'm not, is that something, NIO or something?
Also, I would say I don't have the latest market information, but BYD is definitely a big player in the market if you talk about volume. So you easily can buy an electric car mid-class for around about 25,000 US dollars, something like this. Yeah. And NIO is then more the high brand, I would say. You know, they have the ES8 and ES6 model. These are high value SUV cars. But on the other hand, you also have one remarkable Chinese brand. It's called Weltmeister. Also Weltmeister is Germany, means world champion, translated.
Yeah.
And even they, you can go to the shop and say, okay, you can buy a car then for 200,000 renminbi. You get subsidies from the government up to 100,000 renminbi. So there's the whole plan. It's not only you buy the car, it's also then you get the number plate for free. You can register the car for free. Also it's really a big concept. Huh?
Okay. So there are subsidies is what that sounds like, as they had happened over here too, when you're buying those. So one of the big issues, and it's interesting, you know, from China, and maybe you can, both of you gentlemen can talk about this, is what impact, you know, we're still in the pandemic, right? And it was worse at the beginning of the year. Obviously, we're working it out in different ways around the world. What was the impact of the COVID-19 on e-mobility? And I guess I'd like to hear each of your comments, maybe from a China perspective and an automotive perspective as well. So maybe Michael, we start with you on the automotive side.
So what we recognize in Germany or in whole Europe is for sure the most critical time was this lockdown. All plannings, all the numbers goes down. But for us, the most important thing during this time was the communication with our partners, with customers, with suppliers, because the whole supply chain was down. And there was very important the planning, what happened after this lockdown, because without the planning, everything is empty. So you do not have any parts. And nobody knows what needs the customer. So here, the availability and the communication with the partners was the most, let's say, critical thing. And but we really had done here a good job. And we had also very good partners to come out of this crisis, let's say, to fulfill the requirements.
Okay. And Eric, how was it in China for you?
You know, China drove a very strict lockdown over a couple of weeks. And during that time, indeed, the whole automotive market, so e-mobility market was really down because the people maybe were scared to spend money. They didn't know what will happen. But China recovered very quickly, very soon. And luckily then with the NIO sales of our inverter products, we are 200% over plan. So the NIO car is selling very, very well. And the Chinese people noticed during the lockdown to more and more focus on pure Chinese brands, buying Chinese products. I mean, still Mercedes-Benz and BMW, they are also very good in sales. But the Chinese people in the meantime are getting more and more proud of the quality of the cars. You have to imagine it's not buying a car, it's buying a living room on 4 wheels with WLAN and multi-tainment function. It's really like this. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not how many horsepower has the car. It's really, oh, okay, can I look movies? Yeah, my wife is driving the car. Right?
Which apps I have. You have
so it's a lifestyle choice is what you're saying. So it's, that's interesting.
Yeah, and give you an example, even as a NIO, for example, you don't buy the car only from them. You buy really, like you say, the lifestyle. So they organize travel journeys together with NIO car users. They organize barbecue parties. You can rent their houses for birthday parties for your children. Also, it's really complete package. Yeah.
I've never heard that. That's fascinating. So they've...
And they even have the service, let me add that. I have an app on my mobile phone. If I go to a bar and there's maybe one beer too much, then I can press a button service. And then the NIO center is answering and say, how can we help? I cannot drive anymore. And then they send a guy to you, to the place where's the bar, and drive you home with the NIO car.
Wow. This is very civilized, it sounds like.
I like the service very much.
Well, I won't ask you how many times you've had to use it. We'll move forward.
Secret.
Yes. So let's talk about Zollner now and your involvement in the work that you're doing in this area. And Michael, maybe come back to you on this one. So Zollner is, as you said, is a global industrialization partner in this field of e-mobility. So why don't you tell us about your capabilities in this area and the type of work that you're doing?
So as Zollner has long experience already in this business, we are really able to give the support on the whole life cycle of the product. And so this starting already with the development of the product, when we're looking on layouting, on environmental tests and so on, till the after sales of a product, because we have to think already in the beginning of a product, what happened on the end of the product, because the customer wants to drive it longer than the car will be produced. This is very important. During this life cycle or in the beginning of this, we have the focus for sure also on the production technology as an EMS supplier, because this is our most important work.
Yep.
And for sure, technologies on the product and also on the support of the production. And when we look on the production, we have to think also about technical cleanliness, which is in the days to day very important in case of the electromobility. We have this experience in Germany. Also, we have it in Taizang in China. We started here also in 2010, where we had nothing. And we had really to learn with our customer how we can ensure this technical cleanliness in our production, but also at our supplier, because it's only possible when we get clean parts to ensure the technical cleanliness for our customer.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And
now, to make sure that I understand that correctly, so are you talking, when you're talking about cleanliness, are you talking about counterfeit parts and making sure that it's a valid part, or are you talking about the actual cleanliness?
I'm speaking about the cleanliness in the production. So it is important looking on the design. So this is important when we look on the design and where we can support our customer with the design. And we also need to have a look which particles can be inside of this power electronic, for example. Do we have any leakage tests? Do we have any problems with some pins? So we have to get sure that all the parts are in the right specification, which we get in when we produce it and we send it to the customer. And at the end of the day, we really need here a very good supplier network who also can support us in this doing.
Mm-hmm. And how is that with the supplier network? Is that leveraging what you've already had in place, you know, your standard network, or did that involve kind of including now new suppliers with different parts?
I think when we look on the electromobility, we have our standard suppliers where we have everywhere in the EMS market, but looking forward, there are really new suppliers in kind of technologies and also of the know-how.
Mm-hmm. And does that vary based on the type of product that you're working on?
Yes.
Okay.
So on the type of product and the technology which is in behind for future.
Yeah, no. And that's actually, the supply chain to me was an interesting issue related to e-mobility. And, you know, I guess, you know, Eric, coming to you as far as the China side, is that China's had an advantage on the supply chain. You know, it's one of its understood, you know, strengths of doing manufacturing in China. With e-mobility and with China being such a dominant player, do you think that, is this changing? Are there unique challenges there, or will China maintain this advantage?
Also if you look only on the PCBA level, it's like Tobias mentioned, more or less standard. We have our standard suppliers we use also for the normal electronics. But you have some special unique parts in the inverter, for example, like the IGBT power module. This is really a part not many companies can produce it on this planet Earth. Then the leakage, Tobias mentioned, you need a casting supplier who is really able to provide a very good housing, casting housing. So we use aluminum casting, for example, mainly. Yeah, and then to get it then really so tightened that you really don't have this kind of leakage, because the inverter is cooled by water. And therefore, so for the mechanical components and for the special components like IGBT, that was really a challenge then to set up suppliers, I have to admit. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And those are those within China or are those also global?
Mainly within China, except in the IGBT modules, it's no secret. You have only companies on planet Earth like Infineon in Germany. Yeah. You have Mitsubishi in Japan. Yeah, so there are only a handful who can manufacture this kind of power units.
Okay. And from Michael, kind of back to you. If I think about the growth of EMS and going back to what, if the number I used at the beginning was true, that it's a penetration rate still of just over 2%, but growing, that offers challenges of volume and ramping and the planning capabilities. So what are the unique challenges that Zollner as an EMS faces in that regard?
So the challenge is for sure the supply chain, and also really to get sure that our production is also flexible, and we have the possibilities to enlarge our production within a short time frame. And due to the market, and you mentioned already the 2%, but what we see on the market is growing. But nobody knows what happened in 3 years, in 4 years. Now in Germany, we get money if we buy a car, electric car or a hybrid car. If this money is empty and we do not get any money back from the government,
yeah.
Right? Then for sure we do not know what happened. So that's why we have to react with our suppliers with flexible. And this is kind of planning in systems, because every EMS manufacturer is working with an EMS system for sure, but also we have to think what happened in 1 year, what happened in 2 years. And so we have to speak with our customer, we have to be with our ears on the market. What are they doing? But next also to this flexibility on serial products, we also have to think about new technology, especially on the charging system, which I mentioned before. Inductive charging is a very big field also for us, where we see, okay, now at the moment there is no need on the market, but when the market is growing on the cars, we also need this infrastructure, which Eric also mentioned. Yeah. So in 2-3 years, we have also to be able that we enlarge here also our production and our capability.
Yeah. It sounds, I've heard the term used in discussing, COVID and the impact on the industry, that it's no longer is it just in time, it's just in case. So you have to be ready. And it sounds like here, and you also have to plan for success, because all indicators seem to be that e-mobility will continue to grow and be a dominant sector for you. So I would imagine that planning for success around that with your supply chain and making sure your processes are in place and is a table stakes almost that you have to have in order to serve these types of companies moving forward. Anyway, let me ask we need to wrap here in a bit, but I just wanted to ask both of your views as to how you see e-mobility growing and ramping, and what the future is there, and what's your view? What does your crystal ball say that this e-mobility is going to become?
Okay, I'm first. Okay. For me to answer is quite easy, because I simply have to look in all the 5 years government plans. If you ask me, China was very wise and clever to develop very early an e-mobility car platform. So the cars, the e-cars are now there. The question always then is about the battery, you know. This is the tricky point, and then the range. No? And also since a couple of years, China formed universities or special education centers, science centers to develop then the HO, the fuel cell, you know, to bring up that.
Yeah.
And there NIO has got one very good advantage, I think, because the battery simply is under the car mounted by 4 screws. So then if you have this kind of fuel cell, you simply throw out the battery and put in the fuel cell to get the electric energy. So you have a complete modular system, what many other car manufacturers don't have. They have the battery somewhere in the car built in. It's difficult to change. And the Chinese car manufacturer, they are going there for a different concept. No? So if you ask me now, finally, seems that the China government already thought about that. Okay, guys, you build up the e-cars, fine to have. Battery is not the end of the solution. They know that clearly, yeah. But in parallel, they already built up this kind of universities then for the fuel cells. And this is really smart. No?
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, how do you see it?
It's also my opinion. So I think electric vehicle is one solution, but the cars has to be modular. So we have to think of in different solutions. We have to think about the fuel cell. We have to think about the electromobility and so on. In the end of the day, we need new technologies. There has to be some solution within the next years. And we have to get the right partners in the market and also the right players to do this job.
Yeah, it's interesting because as I hear you talking about the batteries, I remember recently I read something about battery as a service, as something within, you know, the e-vehicle piece, where it's, you know, Eric, like you said, it's so easy in China to take it 4 screws, you take it. When you need the new battery, you can pull in, you can switch out your battery, and as opposed to recharging, I guess, whenever that end of life occurs. And I hadn't heard this about the China platform, but that's interesting because it's really has set it up for success, it sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. Also we have got in Shanghai and Beijing in the meantime so-called NIO powerhouses. That means the car has an automatic function to navigate you to a garage. It's more or less like a garage. The car drives in automatically, the door closes, and then you have a robot system inside, and the battery is changed within around about 3 minutes. And then you have a fresh charged battery. So, and for example, I'm proud owner of an ES8. I'm really proud of. So I didn't buy the battery. Yeah, we simply rented the battery, released the battery. Why to buy it? No? With this kind of concept, very comfortable.
Yeah, because that's one of the challenges they've always said is the charging time. And if you could in 3 minutes, switch it out, that's. What about wireless? I saw something that there might be some wireless charging as a technology that's developing as well. Are you hearing that? Are you involved in that? Or?
I think then you can tell more because in China it's not so common.
Oh, okay.
But in Europe, yes, for sure. We started also a few years ago already, and we really also have done the job to produce the first inductive charging system in serial here in Zand. And we for sure also have done some jobs in the development department already for the next generation, because the first generation was for a 3.5, 3.7 kilowatt charging. For sure takes too long for the next generations. So also here something will happen. And I think wireless charging is one solution in the future, and the other ones are really comfort charging, connectivity charging, also maybe changing of batteries. So a lot of these solutions. But here the most important thing, in my opinion, is to find a common standard between all the OEMs and on the market. Because when we have a standardization on the market, then we really also can make a product which is also in the right cost level.
Yeah. Yeah, complexity costs, doesn't it? So if you can
Right.
Yes.
standardize that, there's certainly benefits to that. Okay. Well, listen, we have to wrap, but this has been an very interesting discussion. I thank you both because you've given me greater insight into what is happening there. It's going to cause me to do a little more research too, but I think it's fascinating with e-mobility, the way it's being applied. And we're developing it in vehicles now, but as I said at the beginning, I read something about even on boats and in the marine area, that's a years out, and batteries are heavier there and there's unique challenges and what have you, but there is, it's clearly here, it's clearly the future. And, I certainly will continue to watch Zollner's activities in this regard, and maybe we can get some updates at some point as well from you. So
yeah, once we are over the COVID, please be welcome to visit us in Germany or in China.
Yes, actually, I will take you up on that. I'm getting island fever staying here, in the house and in the United States all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your insights. And as we say here in Texas, Dankeschön. So we appreciate it.
Bitte schön, you're welcome.